between them, they were involved with 40 goals last year. There's a big, you know, they haven't replaced that. I know they scored 4 last week, but
Yeah.
it's just Texas has
Okay, yeah.
the other day.
Yeah. Oh, it's been good, isn't it? No?
No, I'll be alright.
No?
How's things in the last checking?
obviously the first 2 games have gone really well. We've enjoyed them. Yeah, it's been a good start. Hopefully we can do well again on Saturday. To Watford, who I would regard as one of the top teams in the Championship, but also we're looking forward to the challenge and hopefully we can perform in it.
Yeah, last weekend was a spectacular start to life back in the Championship, wasn't it? And it means that today's first away trip of the season is first against third in the Sky Bet Championship. Who would have thought that at the start of the season? But it is the first away trip for Argyle, and it is a real test as well. Anyone who thought that the Championship was going to be an easy ride after Saturday's victory, well, today will be a real yardstick for you. This is the Argyle TV pre-match show with HBH Woolacotts. I'm Charlie Price. I'm joined by the former Argyle Academy coach Aaron Cusack for this afternoon's game. And Aaron, it is the first big test. These are a big hitter, Watford, for Argyle today, and they are going to have to be at it, aren't they, really?
Oh, without question. And I think it's really encouraging to have this type of test so early on in the season. I think this will be a great opportunity just to see how we fare against a so-called favourite for the league. So really excited to see what comes of the next couple of hours. And I think that if they go up and apply themselves, there's no reason why they can't take something away from the game.
We've got full match commentary coming up from 3 o'clock. If you haven't got your match pass, make sure you get it. If you are based in the UK, domestic fan, then you can buy an audio pass for £2.50. But if you are watching from overseas, then you can buy a streaming pass for £10. All of the details are on our website, pafc.co.uk. Just click on the Argyle TV tab at the top. Well, over the next hour or so, Aaron and I will be bringing you all of the build-up. We've got team news to come in just a moment. But just to mark your card, we'll be hearing from the manager, Stephen Schumacher, who has not had a bad 7 days, has to be said. Lewis Gibson also chats to Rob McNichol about how he's found his first week as an Argyle player. And we will be hearing from Freddie Azaka as well, who made his full debut on Tuesday night and impressed. But let's start off with the all-important team news. Argyle made 10 changes in the week, with just Kane Kessler-Hayden keeping his spot for that Carabao Cup first-round tie against Leyton Orient. But Argyle today have reverted back, basically, to the starting 11 that began the season with that 3-1 victory against Huddersfield, with just the one change from that game, and it is Kane Kessler-Hayden who's not involved. He picked up a knock on Tuesday and is replaced by Saxon Early, who will play his first game of football at this level. That is the only change, as I said. Luke Cundle on the bench, and it's good to see Mikael Miller there too. What jumps out of that for you, Aaron?
Well, I think it showcases the quality of the squad. It would have been quite surprising, I think, if Schumacher had made wholesale changes after the start we had last week. So, I think everyone probably not surprised with the same 11. It would have been the same had Kane not picked up a knock from the other night. But Saxon Early's going to come in, and I thought he's had a good pre-season. He'll slot in naturally as that kind of left-sided. He'll offer good balance. He can play. But then I look at the replacements, the people on the bench, so to speak, who are ready to come in. So for me, it's an attacking side. It's an opportunity to go and showcase what we're capable of doing against the so-called big hitter in this league. And we've got every chance of getting something from it, Charlie.
You look at that front three as well, in Mumba, Hardy and Whittaker. They all scored last weekend. All the headlines were about those three, quite rightly. And it is, if they click, it's going to be a really exciting season, the way that Argyle are set up this year, isn't it?
Yeah, without question. And I think that it's the variation and the flexibility that those players in particular bring. What I was really impressed with in the week is how well players rotated, not in and out of the team, in and out of the system. So one drops in, one goes high, one goes wide, one goes inside. It's almost like it's a systematic thing that's really gelling well. And the fact that the front three in particular have scored already is just going to enthuse more confidence, and they're going to want to help. What I really like as well is the willingness to help each other. Barley Mumba's goal the other day last week was sensational, but not a great deal of credit's been given perhaps to Ryan Hardy's movement, where he just pulled the nearest defender away, created the gap for Barley to exploit. So, not even touching the ball, but a significant contribution to that play.
Let's talk about the one change from last weekend. Kane Kesler-Hayden not involved, Saxon Ali coming in. You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but he's made such a great start.
He has,
to his Argyle career, hasn't he, Kane? We maybe expected him to come off on Tuesday night, but he picked up a couple of knocks, which is unfortunate. He is okay, I think. He just missed a couple of days of training. But what do we miss not having him in the side?
Well, from what we can see already, he's very athletic. He's very versatile, so he can play on the left, he can play on the right. He's very comfortable going into the central area, which is more like the jungle, where everything's 360 degrees. So, he showed some brilliant escape moments the other night against Leyton Orient. So we're going to miss his all-round quality. But on a positive side, we've got ready-made players ready to come in and take that place. So whilst he is a loss, we've got the depth available to replace that. Yeah,
and also seeing Mikael Miller on the bench as well helps cover that left-hand side. We've seen him in pre-season actually playing further forward on a couple of occasions, so that's the versatility again.
It is, and this time last year we were talking about Barley Mumba being the orthodox right back. I know we were back three that side. Now he's playing more of a left side, so again, that versatility is there. Mikael Miller, I like the fact that he's got lots of promise in the sense that he can get up the pitch, he can defend, he's quick, he's good on the ball. I speak for a lot of people, it's just trying to keep him fit, I think. When he's quite an explosive player, he's perhaps more prone to the niggles that other players perhaps aren't. But he's back, he's available, he's fit, and he's ready to take his role when called upon.
Just before we look at the Watford side, the first two games that Argyle have played have been at home park. They've been quite expressive, and we will talk about the defensive side of things in a moment when we hear from Lewis Gibson. But how much of a difference do you imagine today might be compared to the two games that we have played already?
Well, naturally, the fact that they're away from home against a team that won quite convincingly in the opening game last week, they're going to go into a cauldron of atmosphere where the majority of the fans are supporting their side, Watford. So I think Watford will start fast. They'll come out the blocks early, and they're going to want to try and put the game to bed as quickly as they can. I think Argyle have got to weather that storm, but also showcase that they can play. It's fruitless just going up there to just sit deep and hope they don't score, because if they do get a couple of goals ahead and we then try to play and we're a little bit too far behind, it might not work to our favour. So respect them as always, but be prepared to trust ourselves on the ball as a team and see what we can create.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at the Watford side then, shall we? They obviously, as Aaron has said, had a terrific start to their Sky Bet Championship season with a 4-0 win at home against QPR, all 4 goals in the first half. They then backed that up with a 1-1 draw in the week against Stevenage, did lose out on penalties, but Valérien Ismaël, similarly to Steven Schumacher, has just made the one change from last weekend's 4-0 victory, and that is also at fullback. Ngakia, their usual right back, picked up a knock in midweek, and he's been replaced by Ryan Andrews. Lots of firepower, lots of energy in that side. But from a similar point of view, Aaron, missing someone like Ngakia, who over the last couple of seasons has really cemented that position in this Watford team. He's a really athletic, energetic player. That will be a miss for them too.
Absolutely. I mean, just watching the highlights of him last week in particular, he's very marauding, he's very powerful, he likes to travel, he likes to be involved in the attacking elements as well. But, they play a very similar style to what we do, so I expect their fullbacks to go inverted. And what was interesting from some of the research I did in the week is their fullbacks go a lot higher than ours. They run almost beyond the 2 wide midfield players who then drop in to get it. So they're very, very direct. And they will be very vertical in the way that they play. They will play through the lines quickly and try and get it up to Bayo as quickly as they can. And they'll get the runners in the 2 fullbacks to support. So it'll be interesting to see how we cope with that movement in particular.
You mentioned Bayo there. He's got 2 in 2.
Mm-hmm.
He he obviously is the one that's leading that line in the absence of João Pedro, who was top scorer last season. He's gone off, obviously, to Brighton in the Premier League. Perfect start for him, like, I suppose, Ryan Hardy and the other forward players for Argyle.
Yeah, I mean, goals bring confidence. If you score 2 and 2, you feel like you're going to score every time you grace the pitch. So he's going to be full of confidence, but ours will be as well. So, again, got to be mindful of the way he moves. He's quite particular at set plays. He likes to run late. That's the goal he scored in the week, where he arrived pretty late at the back post, and he's going to be a threat. But what I did like about what he did against QPR in particular, he's the one that almost drops towards the ball, which allows almost like an up backing through. So you get the 2 runners in Dele Bashiru going beyond, and Martins as well. So we've got to be mindful of the late runners going in behind our back line.
They obviously this season are going to be under pressure, keen to at least finish in the top 6 places, get into the playoffs. They had a disappointing season last season. Having been one of those sides that always sort of floated up and down, they lost players. We mentioned João Pedro, Ismaila Sarr went out as well, Troost Kong, Kabasele, players that are Premier League quality players, basically, aren't they? They are gone, but Valérien Ismaël knows his level. He's done well with Barnsley before. He's been a manager for West Brom in the Championship, and he's brought in players. If you look at the likes of, Livermore's come in this year, Jake Livermore, he's on the bench today. Very solid, classic Championship player. Ryan Porteous, another one who knows this style of football, I suppose. Yeah. And the Championship is a bit like that. You can have all the flash players. It sometimes doesn't work, does it?
Not necessarily. You need to have that good rear guard and that kind of strong spine in your side to allow the creative players to do what they need to do. And I thought, if you look last year, they're probably the most enigmatic side in the division, where I think they won 15 and lost 15 and drew 15. So it was you didn't know what you were going to get from them. And they'll be looking to showcase that they are more consistent this year. In home form, no doubt, will play a big part in that. But if they are as similar with their out of possession stuff as they were last year, they will be vulnerable at the back. So and the manager coming in, who's relatively new, he won't have them firing on all cylinders perhaps just yet. The new players coming in, he's trying to stamp his kind of style of play. It might be early in the calendar for us to maybe go up and showcase what we're capable of doing, having had this similar squad for a long time.
Well, that's all the team news. Exciting stuff. Kick-off 45 minutes away. Now, though, let's hear from the manager, Steven Schumacher. It's been pretty good 7 days for the Argyle manager. 2 wins from 2, both at home park. But what has he made of the first week?
3 games in a week is, right back to it with a bang. So obviously the first 2 games have gone really well. We've enjoyed them. I think the win last week got us off to a brilliant start, and then the win in the midweek in the cup as well is always pleasing to get through to the next round and again get a Premier League tie as well. So yeah, it's been a good start. Hopefully we can do well again on Saturday.
Yeah, let's chat about that since you mentioned it. Yeah, Crystal Palace at home in the second round, and the fact that there were more than 10,000 people in here for the first round tie, a Premier League side at home in the next round. You feel like another big crowd and a nice occasion as well.
Hope so. I think obviously Crystal Palace are the top team. Roy Hodgson coming down here as well to go up against them will be brilliant. And yeah, I think it's going to be, that's what you work so hard for to get through in the first round, because you want one of these big ties. So that's what we've got. Hopefully we'll get another huge crowd in. It was brilliant to get over 10,000 in on Tuesday night, and hopefully we can put on another good performance. Yeah.
This Saturday we head to Watford. I understand it's your first time going to Vicarage Road. Hope you're looking forward to it. But I'm sure the Argyle fans are. We've sold out the away end at Watford, and it's again set for another occasion. I'm going to keep on saying that, but it feels like occasions at this stage of the season. Well,
it will be, because it's our first experience back in the Championship for so long. So we know that we're going to Watford, who I would regard as one of the top teams in the Championship. I think they've been in and out of the Premier League over the last few years, and they're so strong. The ground's going to be brilliant. I think every stadium that we go to will say that, but it'll have a good atmosphere in there. They got off to a brilliant start on Saturday at home to QPR, so they're going to be full of confidence, and we know we're going to be in for a tough game, but also we're looking forward to the challenge, and hopefully we can perform in it.
There's a bit of a balance in that for you when it comes to going to places like that, because on one hand you're going to appreciate the size of the stadiums and the size of the clubs, but at the same time we absolutely belong in this division, and you need to instill into your players that we do, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's the message to the players every week. We deserve to be in this division. We work so hard to get here, so let's go and have a go. Like, we're not going to show anyone too much respect, but we've got to go there with confidence and with belief that we can go and get results at places like this. Now, that's not underestimating the challenge. We know what we're going to be up against, not only at Watford, a few of the other huge away grounds that we're going to go to, but if you don't go in there with any belief, then there's no point going at all.
It's a game between two sides that both won their first game, that both got a few goals in their first game, so there should be two teams that play with some confidence. What do you foresee the type of game it being? Will it open tie, do you think?
I think so. It'll be a footballing game. I think their patterns of play that Watford played, their shape that they play isn't too dissimilar to what we've been playing, so it's going to be a challenge to try and figure that out. But I think they've got really exciting players, fast players, who are physically strong all over the pitch, so we need to make sure that we match that and then have a plan when we have the ball. I think it's important that we try and have spells of possession where we can, and try and hurt them, because we've got some good players as well.
It's actually quite interesting hearing him say that, you know, he's never been to Watford before, and he hasn't. It's easy to forget just how sort of inexperienced at this level Steven Schumacher is. Yet, when you hear him speak, you have absolutely full confidence in that he knows what he's doing, don't you?
Yeah. And sometimes when you're relatively new to a new domain, you have to develop your craft, you know, and I have no doubt that as our manager, he will be able to impart his quality at this division, at this level, quite seamlessly, because, you know, we were the best team in League One last year, you know, full stop. And the fact that we can now take those same principles and hopefully apply them into this division, you know, I think will surprise quite a few this year.
One of the things, obviously, that he has got big plaudits for is his sort of tactical view on the game and being able to change matches in game, substitutions, change of tactics, what have you. And again, it's been a change of tactic this season, and it looks as if it's working. And there was a train of thought potentially that away from home, do you change your approach? Who knows what we're going to play like, because we haven't seen it yet. But from the look of the side, it's going to be the same as what we've seen the first couple of games, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think because it's so early in the season, they need to test what this system will be like away from home. I appreciate every opposition is different, but if these are one of the favourites for the league, let's go and see what that system is like. I'm not saying it's a gun-ho approach and it's really expansive, but when we have the ball, let's see what we're capable of doing. You know, Watford, I think this might encourage us to play, because Watford will want to play expansively themselves. So if possession is turned over, it will allow us to play with a little bit more expansion as well. So, you know, over the next 6-8 weeks, they'll start to get a flavour of what style of system might be more suitable to an away game, should changes need to be made. But that's what the training ground is for.
Yeah, pictures from Vicarage Road there. You can see Ryan Hardy looking pretty relaxed, pretty happy. Just the start of the warm-ups. Of course, live match coverage coming here on Argyle TV from 3 o'clock. If you haven't got your match passes, do make sure you go and get them from our website. It's the same formation for both sides, as we've said. So when you're a coach and you've got the opposition's team and you kind of figure out how you think they're going to play, and it's exact same as how you play, what are you looking at as the key sort of battle areas to get to kind of put your authority on the game? Well,
naturally, the central area, they both like to play through. So the central area is going to be the key battleground, so to speak. So I think it's the ones who have got the better awareness on how to stifle the thing that they're trying to do as well. And it'll be, for me, it's not about individuals today. It's about how a unit operates to limit forward play. And, you know, we saw the highlights from the QPR game last week for Watford. QPR had no central protection whatsoever. That's why they were ripped apart so easily. I know they conceded in the opening 60 seconds. But for me, that central area, especially without the ball, is going to be integral. You know, hopefully we'll be aware that we just collapse and just narrow off and make it hard to play through. And if it becomes hard to play through, you've either got to go around or over. And if they go over, that might then play into our hands to pick up the loose ball.
Well, today is the first meeting between Argyle and Watford since 2010. Argyle's last win over the Hornets was a year earlier than that as well. We're getting closer to finding out whether they can do that once again over a decade afterwards. If you haven't got your match pass, as I said, head over to our website, pafc.co.uk, click on the Argyle TV tab. £2.50 for an audio pass, £10 for a streaming pass for overseas subscribers. Make sure you get it. More build-up coming up here on the pre-match show, sponsored by HBH Wallecott's coming up after this.
The away day. A shared passion and commitment. 12,000 miles across the season. Unforgettable memories. Past players, the goals. Waiting players, supporters, young and old. Capturing the moment, living the dream. Green Army, belting out the genocide. The stands, the shirts, the drum beats, the surging crowd moving as a giant wave. Crusaders, one and all. The Green Army.
Well, both of these sides, as we've been saying, got off to winning starts in their championship campaigns, and goals were on the agenda. But for Argyle, it wasn't just going forward that impressed. Defensively, with a new look formation and members in that defensive unit, managed to stand up to the test of a Huddersfield side that threw everything at them, especially towards the end of it. One of those new players is Lewis Gibson, who arrived on a 2-year contract from Everton. How has he found life at Home Park so far?
Perfect. Obviously couldn't ask for much more with the two results. Obviously the Saturday was a nice one to get going with Huddersfield at home, first one back at Home Park, and then obviously carrying that momentum into Tuesday.
Obviously you got to play a few games with your new teammates in pre-season, but you didn't get to experience Home Park in pre-season. Saturday against Huddersfield was your first occasion with an Argyle shirt on. How was it for you? Yeah,
buzzing. Obviously delighted, obviously especially with the result. Fans were bouncing. Made it quite special, obviously, for the first return in the Championship, I think, for 13 years or whatever it was. So, it was a really special occasion, and obviously to get the win for the fans and to get that momentum going was really important.
You've experienced a sold-out Home Park now. Now it's time to experience a sold-out away end, because we've sold out our allocation away at Watford on Saturday. How much are you looking forward to the game?
Of course, eager to get going, excited. Be a tough game. Obviously, we're in the Championship now, so there's no real easy games or to so to speak. So, yeah, obviously can't wait to get going, and like I said, carrying that momentum is really key.
And they started strongly, didn't they? A good win on their first game as well, so one would expect both teams to go in there full of confidence.
Of course, I think we'll both be on the front foot, be aggressive. Obviously we've come in the Championship, we're not going to give teams the respect, we're going to go after teams, and hopefully you'll get the win.
Are you someone that looks at opposition teams and goes through what their strikers are like? Obviously, I know Shuey and the coaching staff will do that kind of thing for you. What's your sort of mindset? Are you analytical when it comes to the oppositions?
Obviously we get the videos and stuff come through, so you try and have a look of who you come up against or what to expect to give you a little bit of a step up on what's coming next. So yeah, I would say so. Yeah, but also you've got to believe in your own ability to go out there and perform.
It was a solid start for him and Dan Scarr as a new centre back pairing. What are the keys then, do you think, for new defenders coming in to try and get right understandings? Because they seem to get it pretty okay on Saturday.
The development of a relationship straight away. Find out more about each other just beyond being a footballer. Then you can build a relationship then, and then you can rely on each other. And if you build that kind of commanding relationship, which is strong and you can trust each other, then what I like about that is that they're relatively new, but they look like they played together for a long time, and that's the kind of remnants of developing good relationships early.
Yeah, and I suppose balance of left foot, right foot, and a back too.
Yeah.
People do talk about it a lot, but it is actually quite key.
It's massive because it enables symmetry on the pitch. If you've got more left-sided players on the orthodox side, it allows you to move the ball more freely left and right, because you know that they're going to be taking the ball in the same ways. So you just mirror what you do. So if you can't go left, you can switch it and go to the right, and vice versa. So that helps. The balance is always key. The fact that they got a left foot, right foot combination is excellent for the development moving forward.
We both did the game on Tuesday night, and a lot of people picked out Plegathwello, Hulo Plegathwello, as one of the players that really impressed, and it was his first Argyle appearance. Had the armband as well. He did everything he could to force Stephen Schumacher's hand today. He hasn't made the starting lineup, but the trust being put in these two players is great. Knowing that there is someone more than adequate on the bench, keeping them honest.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Charlie. And I mean, whilst every player wants to play, the modern game is built on squads. It's not built on a starting 11. So the others who aren't playing today, they know that they will get their opportunity in the foreseeable future because they're good enough to play. You know, it's different if you've got a starting 11 where the replacements aren't as good as the ones who are going in, week out. So, you know, that showcased last year. So Pleggy coming in and showcasing what he was doing, I thought he was excellent the other night by stepping in with the ball, which is something I think we missed last year, being able to step into midfield with the ball to invite the press and then play through. And I was really impressed with how anticipatory he was, being able to just sit in and regain and nudge and steal, and it was very continental, which is, you know, no coincidence coming from where he has.
Yeah. And I suppose that step in, and we mentioned it a couple of times on Tuesday night. You know, Lewis Gibson in pre-season matches, we saw him do that quite a bit, albeit, you know, it was against Plymouth Parkway and you know, Swindon, Forest Green sides that are in lower divisions. But how important is it, especially at this level, where, you know, trying to gain any sort of advantage, beating press?
Vital. I think the higher up the ladders you go, higher up the league, the more technically astute players are. So you need players who can carry the ball into a different zone, and beating the first press is key, because if you can beat the first press and carry in, you've automatically got an overload. So you've got an additional player. So one of the opposition has to jump towards the ball carrier. And if you've got comfortable players who can bring it out, eyes up and play through, as soon as that press is made, that jump is made, it releases a player we can play through. So it's an added dimension to perhaps what we didn't have last year in terms of stepping in.
Yeah. What do you see as being the kind of big moments or big areas of concern for that defensive unit today then with Watford?
I think the fact that they break with pace and they have so many match winners all over the park, their rotations they run from deep, from the research I've done in particular. They like to, they have a pattern of play, so as soon as it goes into one player, it's the third player who's running, and he's the one that becomes the focus player, so that the target player might be into Bayu as the 9, but the focus player is the third runner. So whether that's Deli Bashiru or whether that's Imran Louza, you know, they've just got to be mindful of the deep runners in particular.
So how key then is someone like Jordan Houghton? Very.
No. Yeah, it's important he doesn't get sucked out. If he gets sucked out wide, it leaves a gaping hole to play into. So it's almost having an awareness of when do you stay with the runner and when do you mark space. And I'm sure that they've gone through it this week in training and go, okay, well, if a runner drifts to the periphery, how much of a danger are they in relation to the ball and the goal? If they aren't much of a danger, leave him, keep the play in front, and then just plug the space. And if you can suffocate the space and the service into the front player, you might stifle their attack.
We're just over half an hour away from kickoff here on Argyle TV. Watford against Plymouth Argyle. Now, he's not in the squad today, but on Tuesday night, Freddie Asaka made quite an impact on his first competitive start for the club. He had a couple of shots, one assist, almost got a second as well. Let's hear how he thought that game went.
It was definitely a great feeling. I think I was able to prepare a bit better because I've experienced it in the pre-season, but to do it in a real competitive game is definitely a great feeling. So.
Yeah, and also against a side who, you know, League One, decent opposition, won their league last year. Yeah. How would you personally assess your performance in the game?
I think I did all right. I think I did my best, and I was able to win a couple 1v1s and find a couple passes. So I think I did all right.
Yeah. Let's take a couple of moments in the game then. We'll start with the assist, shall we?
Yeah.
Talk me through that. What was going through your brain? Because it was all a bit blood and thunder fast for
Yeah, I've seen Luke running, and I was just trying to stay on side, but also get a bit closer towards the goal so that I can either pass it or shoot. And I think back to when I watched England a couple of times in Man City, where they do that first time cross along the box, just knowing there'll be someone there, and I've seen Wayno, so just did it first time, and lucky is there to tap it in.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't quite sure whether it hit him or the defender, but it definitely was Wayno, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then you had a couple of efforts yourself as well.
Yeah.
And it's becoming your thing, run down the line, cut in and strike.
Yeah. I need to maybe work on my weak foot a bit more, but yeah, I think playing on the left, it's what it just feels natural to do when you're running at the player and there's space inside. It just feels right to go inside and have a shot with my right, and I think as long as I'm getting shots off and challenging the keeper, that I'll just keep doing it.
Was it as you expected, that game? You know, playing from the start, nearly 10,500 in there.
Yeah. To be honest, I was thinking it'd be a bit more like a Papa John's last year, where the crowd's maybe not as big. So I prepared myself for that, and when I saw 10,000, it was a bit nerve-wracking. But I think I managed to change my mindset and prepare myself again for it. So yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. How do you prepare for matches now then? Because like you said, you've kind of been with the first team for a large chunk of time now.
Yeah.
What is it like building up to a match to kick off?
I try not to think about it too much, so it doesn't play in my head, but I just think how I did when I'm with 18s and when I'm with first team. I just think the same things. Think about the player I'll be up against, how I can beat him the first time, and I like to picture what I'm going to do in the game before the game, so that it just feels right when I do it, I think.
Did you have friends and family in?
Yeah, I got my friends came up and my brother was there to watch as well.
Okay. Does it give you, what does it do for you going forward? You know, does it give you that hunger to want to experience that more and more?
Yeah, definitely. I know my brother loves watching the games, and he's always asking if I can get tickets for him, so it's a bit of motivation to stay with the first team so I can get him those tickets, to be fair.
And just finally, how have you sort of found being in and around the first team now? Because it's a step up, isn't it?
Definitely.
And it's also championship style football, so what's it been like?
Yeah, it's much more professional and a lot more, everything's tactical based. I feel like there's a lot more detail with everything, and it's a really good learning environment that I enjoy to be in, so I just want to be here as long as I can be, to be fair.
Freddie Asaka there talking to me. Lovely interview, wasn't it? That how impressed were you with him on Tuesday night?
I was really impressed with the fact that I loved how fearless he was. He just played football, Charlie. That's all he did. He got the ball and he went, I'm going to do what I normally do. And that's against fully fledged professionals, and showcase what a fantastic future he's got.
Interesting as well, the comments that Stephen Schumacher made in the week. You might have seen it on Plymouth Live or on the Argyle TV video of the press conference, where he was asked about Freddie and Caleb and how he sees their development over the next year, because we've seen Will Jenkins-Davis, Oscar Halls, Jack Endicott go out on loan. But he said, no, these guys are going to stay and they're going to train with the first team and they're going to be involved. What does that say to them? What do you think is going through their minds when they hear stuff like that from their manager?
Well, it shows that he has complete faith in them at this time. You know, normally players go out on loan just to build their craft, you know, and get game time.
Yep.
You know, I think it'll be key to ensure that they monitor how many minutes they're getting. You know, they want to be involved in the first team, and when called upon, they will be. But providing they get a good balance of minutes to allow that development to happen, then it says everything about how valuable they are to this football club and how much they are valued. And, you know, who wouldn't want to hear that the manager wants you as part of the first team day in, day out. You're only going to improve because you're playing day in, day out with better players. And the fact that they can trust them so early in their careers is testament to their qualities.
Neither Caleb Roberts nor Freddie are involved today. They did play for the under-18s, incidentally, where Freddie scored a hat-trick.
As expected, yeah.
In a 4-0 win over Forest Green Rovers. Yeah, I mean, just talk about, you know, making your debut, playing so well in front of 10,500 people, talking to us on Argyle TV and kind of being like, oh, yeah, it was great to play there. 2 days later, you're in the under-18s, but he performs.
And that's a real strength of his mindset, in that he doesn't see that as below him. It was like, there was an opportunity to play 80 minutes or 90 minutes today. Do you want to play? Yes, please. I want to go and play. This is what I can do. You know, in time, he will become too good for that level, and rightly so, because he's near enough in the first team week in, week out. But it just showcased, I loved the rawness of his interview, the inexperience of the interview, and for me, he was an inspiration for lots of young players who could see that he's just a young boy doing the thing that he loves most.
Yeah, and the quote about watching Man City in England as well.
Yeah, and what's good about that is he studies the game, and he doesn't just study the marvel of the Messis of the world. He studies people that play in his position and see what they do, and he's trying to replicate that, and he got his reward on Tuesday night.
Just a quick word on Caleb Roberts as well, because he is another one like Freddie, who's not going to be sent on out on loan for the time being, he also played today for the under-18s. But, you know, he obviously hasn't got as much coverage after Tuesday because he didn't start the game and didn't, you know, maybe look as fancy as Freddie. But what do you see his real qualities being? What do you make of him?
From what I can see, he's just very elegant as a player, very calm and collected. He showed a couple of glimpses on Tuesday night I thought were of like a senior pro, where he was calm in his own box under full pressure, drew a foul, stayed on the ball, worked the ball. Just showcases the trust that Schumacher and the coaching staff have in these players so young. And he's another one. He's a different player to Freddie, and rightly so. He's a good player in his own right. But it just showcases the development that they've had, and all credit goes to the academy staff as well for bringing them through, because the prospects are extremely bright.
Just finally on these two, they aren't involved today, so this question might seem a bit weird, but how much do you see them featuring this season, especially in league matches? Because it's a different thing playing in a cup, but the championship is the championship.
Yeah,
it's a second tier. It's a huge standard of football.
It's a difficult question to answer, Charlie. We don't know. I mean, you know, the strength and depth of the squad, they've gone up a league. Now everyone's got to up their game. But the fact that he wants them in and around showcases that he's willing to pick them if called upon. And, you know, Freddie in particular, he's such an exciting player where he's creative and he kind of gets people on the edge of their seats. You don't quite know what he's going to do. So I think that if you're chasing the game, 20 minutes to go, you need to put someone on with a bit of rawness, a little bit of inexperience, which sometimes is harder to play against because they just play the moment rather than the occasion. Why not throw him in? And I think Caleb has already shown it last year as well. He was brought on late in the games. I think it might have been Burton or Cheltenham away, where 1-0 up, struggling a little bit, straight in the middle of the park, going, you know, see the game out for us. So, bright futures. Bright futures indeed. And as I said, both played in the under-18s today. A 4-0 win for Darren Way's side. Freddie grabbing a hat-trick as well against Forest Green Rovers. You can see the report of that game actually on our website a little later on this afternoon. Now, we are getting closer and closer, 20 minutes away from kickoff at Vicarage Road, where Argyle are taking on Watford for the first time since 2010. You can follow all of the action here on Argyle TV. UK-based supporters can get an audio pass for just £2.50. International supporters can watch the game for £10. Head over to our website, pafc.co.uk. Click on the Argyle TV tab and you can find all of the streaming details there. Coming up next, though, we'll be finding out a little bit more about Watford.
Let's get it poppin', I'm looking away. Go tell mother I'm cooking the game. Flow like water bubbling up where you want me to make. Taking you back in the day, feeling immaculate, mate. Action packed back to back while you yapping away. I got a knack to react, but I'm packing a grace. To the max with a fact, let me grab the space. I had to map the place, you got a laughing face. One long and strong, looking like a stack full of hate. It goes on and on, way to the back of the bank. This phenomenon's on, I don't even have to say. I'm where I belong, this is not back in the, you know. I go where I wanna, a fair warning for anybody with hair on them. You can't stop me, it gets sloppy.
Now, as we've already mentioned, Watford got off to a flyer as well last weekend. They scored after 33 seconds and were 4-0 up at half-time against QPR. They ended out seeing that game off with a 4-0 victory. They are one of the fancied sides for promotion this season as well, with a new manager at the helm. And it didn't take them long to show just why people are talking them up this time around.
We've already mentioned in their blue and white hoop shirts, familiar kit for QPR, white shorts, white socks. This is Ryan Porteous. Tommy, you mentioned intensity. That's certainly something that manager mentioned. Now, here's an early chance. Someday Bashiru has put Watford in front inside 40 seconds. Well, how about that to start the season? Here's Porteous. Into the feet of Martins, who's drifted infield. He's out on the right-hand side now, leads to Ngakia crisply and quickly into the feet of Loser, who can attack the edge of the penalty. Onto his left foot. Bilkala into the corner! Evades the outstretched arm of Asmir Begovic. And Imran Loser doubles Watford's lead. Corner is taken short. Flicked on by Martins! It's 3-0! The corner taken quickly. Semovich in. Mateus Martins with the back header at the near post. Looped over Begovic. Ngakia forward. Here's Sierra out to inside the penalty area. He forward. And Baku Bayo makes it 4-0. first halves go of a new season, they don't go much better than this. So we remain top. That's good. At the moment, it means that Watford will be top. People will be screenshotting the table tonight and reminding that the full-time whistle blows. Well, Rangers have been run ragged on opening day here.
Yeah, a really impressive 4-0 win for Watford last weekend. But we were just talking, watching those. Were they helped out by QPR?
Massively. Yeah, massively. That opener, the fact that they conceded in 30 seconds, this disrupts everything. The whole pre-season has been about first game, you know, same conversations all across the land. Don't get done early. Don't
stay in the game.
Within 30 seconds, before Gareth Aim was sat down, they're a goal down, and now you're all at sea. But yeah, take nothing away from Watford. They carved QPR open, but QPR were very expansive and looked a little bit all over the shop. So whilst it was impressive to see, better opposition would perhaps prevent that so easily.
Yeah, I mean, do you, for example, see Argyle being carved open as much by those players that Watford have?
I'd like to think not, in the sense that they've looked at that and gone, well, actually, we just, like I've already alluded to earlier, just protect the central areas. You know, the first goal was a classic up, back and through, and it was a third-man run from late, and the fact that he wasn't, by the time the player marking him realised who he was marking, he was 3 or 4 yards ahead of him. So that's the thing that they've got to be mindful. We've got to be mindful of this season. The speed of the game is going to be increased. So we can't afford to switch off, whereas last season, you know, you might have been able to switch off for a fraction longer and then still be able to recover. This year, you won't get that opportunity. So they've just got to be mindful of the turnovers in particular.
And just watching that, it's clear to see that Imran Louza, that sort of free role in the middle of the midfield, he scored from outside the box, hit the bar in the second half. You have already mentioned kind of a player to look out for. He will be one, won't he?
He will.
Keep your eyes on.
He'll shoot on sight if he's got the opportunity. If he's given time to get his head up, the one in the clips there, but he put a couple of lovely just clip balls over the back line for Bayo to run onto, and he's got quality all around the park. So you just got to limit the amount of time he has to get his eyes up and make a decision, and if you can stifle that, then you take care of one of their best playmakers. And
it's obvious to see, having made just one change in it being the goalkeeper on Tuesday night against Stevenage, a side that are well drilled. Steve Evans, you know, well known for having kind of difficult to break down sides. You know, they beat them on penalties. It was 1-1 at the end of the game, and it was basically the same side that beat QPR.
It was. It was.
So that shows what can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you take it to them a little bit, you know, they're not invincible. They are, you know, just a football team at the end of the day who are there, you know, and can be broken and you can score against them. But the one thing that we need to do in the first 20 is just almost be prepared that they're going to come at us at 100 mile an hour. They're going to try and almost go full throttle. They're not going to say, let's sit in and see the edge of the game. They're at home. They're full of confidence. They're going to go, right, what have you got?
Yeah.
You've come up a league. We're better than you. Well, let's see if that is the case.
Yeah. Well, I know a couple of comments have come in, actually, on Argyle's record against Watford. And they did the double over Argyle the last time we played each other back in the relegation season 9-10, but Argyle did the double before that. There was a draw before that. Argyle won again before that. It's over 10 years ago, but it's not the worst record.
Yeah, no, it's not the worst record. I think we're clutching a little bit if we're relying on those recent,
I think every time we're going to do
very
this
close, aren't they, the scores?
With other sides this season, it's going to be over 10 years ago we did this.
Absolutely. So I think whilst that's an interesting statistic, I don't think we can clutch at that because the game's changed, the club's completely different, and not one player remains from that. But it's interesting to see that nonetheless, and it will give us a little bit of not hope. I think we need belief more than hope. And we've just got to trust what we're capable of doing. We've got good players, very good players, who deserve to play at this level. And if you want to play at this level, you've got to play against the best teams, and one of them might be today.
Yeah, okay. We are getting closer to kick-off. This is the pre-match show on Argyle TV with Aaron Kuzak and myself, Charlie Price, in partnership with HBH Woolacotts. Coming up after this very short break, we'll be going over all the team news again before handing over to Vicarage Road.
There's nothing like the start to a new season. The energy, the anticipation, the expectation. You know that buzz in the air. You can feel it. It's going to be our year. It's going to be different this time. It needs to be, for all of us. The emotions of the game get to us all. I know all about that. But whether out on the pitch, in the stands, or on the sidelines, we've all got to do better at all levels. No more surrounding refs, no more abuse, no more intimidation, no more discrimination. Leave the pitch to the players. And those offensive chants, you know the ones. There's never a place for them in the game we love. That beautiful feeling at the start of a new season. Don't ruin it. Let's keep it that way, together. Whether you win, lose or draw, let's make sure that this season is different. We all do it for the love of the game. Let's show our pride and passion in the right way. We all love football, so let's protect the game.
You're watching Argyle TV on the second weekend of the brand new season, and Argyle are heading up to Vicarage Road for their first away game of the season. And here is the starting lineup and subs for this afternoon's game. Just the one change made by Stephen Schumacher to the side that beat Huddersfield last weekend. That is at left back, where Saxon Early comes in for his first start of the season in this competition instead of Kane Kessler-Hayden, who picked up a knock against Orient in the week. Front three, we've been speaking about, the defensive side of the game today, Aaron, because of what Watford did last week. But, you look at people like Surma and Bayu and Martins for them, but we've got our own front three that are going to cause a lot of problems and already have this season as well.
Absolutely. And, the longer we stay in this division, the more that we will acclimatise to the expectation, the intensity. So this will become a fairly normal fixture in a few weeks' time. Go into a place, every away game is going to be difficult this year. Every home game is going to be difficult. That's why we're in this division. So, looking at our starting 11 in particular, it's, other than the forced change, it's a fantastic starting 11, and we can build on last week in particular. Yeah,
and just that midfield trio, we spoke about it on Tuesday, and it was highlighted last weekend as well, the sort of roles that Callum Wright and Adam Randall now have in this side, where they're given a little bit more licence to kind of progress the game.
Yeah.
Because of Jordan Houghton sitting in there.
Yeah, and they've got real integral roles. They are the connection between the midfield unit and the front unit in particular. So they've got to make sure that they are the pivots and the connectors to Hardy, Whittaker and Barley Mumba. And not only that, if they've got to be prepared to run beyond Hardy as well, not both at the same time, but be prepared to do that, because Watford will do that. And if Mumba and Whittaker in particular are willing and aware that they might have to sit in, that needs to potentially be orchestrated by Jordan Houghton. But I think it's important Houghton doesn't just sit on the toes of the front player, because then you'll leave a gaping hole in that middle. So they've got to move as a unit.
Luke Cundall could also make his championship debut for Argyle today from the bench. Let's look at Watford's team. They, like Argyle, don't make many changes to their starting 11. They made just one change in the week for the Carabao Cup game against Stevenage. That was in goal. Daniel Bachmann back in today, taking the place of Ben Hamer. But the change, like Argyle's, is enforced. With Ngakia injured, who was a key player for them, and he's been replaced by Ryan Andrews at full-back. We've spoken about their midfield options in there as well, and their Jordan Houghton being Sierralta in there, who over the last couple of seasons has sort of patrolled in that similar sort of role.
Yeah, they're like the pivots, they're the orchestrators of the play. So if you can give them time to play through the lines, then we run the risk of being found out. But what we've got to be mindful of, Charlie, is Surma and Martins. They will look to drop a little bit and Deli Bashiru and Loser will then look to press and go beyond. So they're going to make interchanges and rotations slightly deeper than perhaps what we're used to. So it's just making sure that we acclimatise quickly.
Just enough time to get a kind of final thought on how you see the game going then, Aaron. What do you want to see, maybe more than how you see it going?
I'd like us to go up and showcase what we're capable of doing. Now, whilst I appreciate you don't want to lose, at this stage of the season, if we are unfortunate to lose the game, it's not the end of the world. I'd like to see what we're capable of doing away from home, trying to play the style that we're prioritising, rather than sitting in hope and we snatch something. As the game unfolds, the longer it goes on, then we might need to change the system slightly. But they'll have plans in place ready for that. So I'd like to think if we can play to our capabilities and play with confidence, it could surprise a few.
Yeah, and also it is just that mindset thing, as you said, even from supporters. We won almost every game, it felt like, last season, and that probably won't be the case. Who knows? But it probably won't be the case. And as you say, it's not to kind of freak out if things don't go your way.
No, and we will... Sadly, I think we will lose more games than we did last year, and I hope I'm wrong. But if it's come from the chairman himself saying it's okay to lose more games this year because of the expectation, then as a supporter, as we all are, as fans of the football club, as long as we get behind our players and showcase that we're there for them, then they'll feel confident that they have the belief of the support.
Let's just have a look at the other games taking place today in the Championship then, because it is always good to kind of have a look at the fixtures, even though it is so early on in the season. You can see there at the very top, Coventry in the early kickoff with a massive 3-0 victory over Middlesbrough. That's a huge statement.
Big win.
Of intent, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Having especially lost Gyökeres and now Hamer as well, two of their bigger players from last season.
Yeah, and Michael Carrick at Middlesbrough would have wanted to have a good start, and they had a good end to the season, made the playoffs, I think, didn't they? Just missed out on automatic promotion. So, again, it just goes to show the calibre of oppositions we're going to be facing in this division.
Leeds will be looking for their first victory away at Birmingham, who Argyle play in a couple of weeks' time. QPR, of course, looking to bounce back after being dominated in the first half against Argyle's opponents today, last weekend. And then there's an interesting game at the bottom there that you can see between Ipswich and Stoke. Two sides who won on opening weekend. They will be looking to continue that form. Ipswich back in the Championship at home as well. That'll be an interesting one to see. And Southampton also host Norwich today as well. And you can see it. Argyle's opponents on Saturday. Two more of those fancied sides this season at St Mary's. We're almost there. First away trip of the season. It's a tasty one. It's Watford away, but Argyle go into it with 2 wins, 5 goals scored, only 1 conceded. Confidence will be there, Bo.
Absolutely. Go out and see what the opposition are like. The Green Army will be in full voice, and they'll be there, and it'll feel like in some portion of the ground, it'll feel like they can, experience the support and feel like a home kind of section, and go out and enjoy it, but try to trust. That's the important thing. And
they will, as we know, throughout the whole season. They're backed by an incredible support. Yeah. This game's sold out so early. Yeah. And that's going to be the case everywhere. And there's going to be more and more Argyle supporters than there were even last season because of the size of grounds. And knowing that you're going away from grounds or away from home, look into one section, knowing it's full, and everyone's rooting for you as a squad, that will instill that confidence and belief and the willingness to work hard and showcase and give everything they can for that cluster who represent all of us on away days. Yeah. Well, let's see how they're going to get on then. First trip to Vicarage Road since 2010 for Argyle. I've mentioned it so many times. We're going to continue mentioning it. First meeting between these sides in over a decade. Argyle back in the Championship, looking to continue the momentum that they picked up from last season and, of course, from the early stages of this season. Commentary coming up from Vicarage Road then in a couple of minutes. A reminder that if you haven't already, make sure you buy your match pass. You can follow all of the game here on Argyle TV. If you are based in the UK, then you can listen to the game for just £2.50. But if you're an overseas supporter watching from outside of the UK, then you can follow the game for £10. That's the cost of a streaming pass. All of the details can be found on our website, pafc.co.uk. Just click on the Argyle TV tab and then the match streaming option. And you can find all of your details there. Now, just a quick note, due to commentator illness, BBC Radio Devon's commentary team of Alan Seabrook and former Argyle striker Martin Gritton will be taking you through all of the action from Vicarage Road, Argyle's first trip to Hertfordshire since 2010. That is coming up next.
The away day. A shared passion and commitment. 12,000 miles across the season. Unforgettable memories. Past players, the goals. Waiting players, support.